so smooth, he'll talk you through, he'll set the groove. Oh, Manly Mark, the man with the spark. He's got the wisdom, he's got the heart. Pull up a chair, stay for a while. Manly Mark will make you smile. He's got tales that twist and turn, a world of wonders you'll soon learn. Big band swing with a gentle tone, in his company you're never alone. The horns will croon, the rhythm will sway.
Good afternoon, everybody. As always, this is Manly Mark, and I'm here waiting at Uncle Pat's Pub, as always. Hear that good tune on the jukebox. So thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys saw me this morning on the Feast Me show with Manly Mark at 9 a.m. And I always got a plug. Feast's always looking at me. He's always demanding I plug those shows. And when we have products, he'll be demanding I plug those products. But tune into the Night with Fee, 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. Again, people are just eating it up, sending in those questions, loving it. They're digging it. So tune into those shows, and we are going to have a lot more coming along here shortly. More Terminally Ills, more His Kingdom's Coming. Man in the Mirror, it's still in the works. Don't worry. All those things and much more are coming. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in particular today, just because if you tuned into the Feast Me show with Manly Mark this morning, I made the comment and said I'm going to probably keep this broadcast short today because I've got so much work to do. I got things I got to get done for you guys and for this, organization or this business for Fee. But the point is, got to get that website going. I got to get it looking good. Got to get it functional to the point where we're driving all our viewers, not necessarily away from YouTube or Spotify or Instagram or Facebook, but to our website. We want traffic to our website. But right now, you're not finding much on the website, but I'm trying my best to learn and figure out how to make sure all of our live streams and broadcasts are there, just in case we ever get banned or they take us down. Not only that, but I want to have an archive of all our videos, all our episodes are there. That way if they ban us or take us down, we've got an archive there. And not only that, I want to just make it look good, and I want to make it functional to where even like the surveillance live 24/7, even if it's not up on YouTube, it's always on our website. And so I think that would drive traffic to our website, along with we're getting get audio set up, so you'll be listening to Fee, just living his life, and he'll be taking y'all with him. But we're going to get that going, and it'll be on our website shortly. But I'm working on that. But like I said, I want to kind of keep it short today, so there aren't too many things I want to talk about. But there are some things I definitely want to talk about. And so I'm just going to get right into it. First thing I wanted to kind of talk about is just breaking. Trump and Epstein's been in the news, as always. Ghislaine Maxwell, apparently they moved her to a minimum security prison, and it's like, oh man, that's always what kind of happens before they get them. So I don't know, we'll see what happens there. I hadn't seen anything pertaining to that, but I'll read this post. After claiming no Epstein client list exists, now they're leaning toward transparency with Maxwell's 2-day grilling by Deputy AG Todd Blanche. We're leaning towards transparency. The Epstein saga plot twist continues. Watch them drop this Friday at 5 p.m. when nobody's paying attention. Okay, whatever. Okay, so long story short is, I guess Ghislaine Maxwell's talking, so I don't know if that means she has a few days left for this earth, or maybe she was quick enough to get all the info, spill all the beans before they got her. But we'll see what happens with that. But again, questions all over the place with why was Trump denying the fact that this list even existed. That's what I can't understand. I'm a pro-Trump guy, but it just is odd. Again, you have folks saying he is directly implicated in the Epstein files. That's why he doesn't want to release it or why he wants to cover it up. You have folks who say, and I lean more towards this, that it would be embarrassing for the CIA or more specifically the Mossad, and so Netanyahu got involved in essentially convinced Trump that it would be in the best interest not to reveal how deeply the Mossad was involved in this kind of thing. I lean more towards that personally. Like I said, there's a lot of theories out there, but the fact remains Trump's just acting like a weirdo about it. I just don't understand that. And unless he's playing some 16,000D chess and he's trying to get the demos to fall on their own sword, that's yet to be seen. But we'll stick around and find that. Let me go through this. I thought this was very interesting. Someone was asking Grok, AI, and I just remembered something I did want to talk about and get into. I should have found a graphic. Anyways, used Grok, and again, AI, sure do I think we're building interfaces with demonic intelligences in other realms? Well, a little bit. But you can use it to compile knowledge and data pretty quickly in one place, and so it's useful for that, and just for fun, playing around with it. But once it starts convincing people to kill themselves or kill other people like it already has, or divorce their spouse, that's when it gets a little like, what was really speaking through that medium? But someone asked Grok, that's Twitter. I'm always going to say Twitter just because that's what it's been forever for me. But I guess X. They asked essentially Grok what the conspiracy theories that people didn't think were true or didn't know existed that turned out to be true. And he gave 10. And so I'm just going to go through the list real quick just because it's like, well, these are things that most people have no idea about. Most people aren't even aware or working in the background, but are true and have happened, and it makes you wonder what's continuing to happen. Anyways, I'll go through it. Operation Paperclip. U.S. recruited Nazi scientists post-World War II, ignoring war crimes, denied as a rumor, proven by 1946 media reports and 1980s declassifications. We talked all about that. Iran-Contra affair. Reagan admin sold arms to Iran to fund Nicaraguan rebels illegally. Denied by officials, proven by 1986 investigations and hearings. Reagan's everyone's guy, but it's like they're all into the shady stuff, man. Watergate scandal. Nixon orchestrated DNC break-in and cover-up. Denied by White House, proven by 1973 tapes and Senate probe. Operation Mockingbird. We talked about this other day. Apparently it's still ongoing, which is what Tulsi's trying to dismantle, and which is, I suppose in part why you're seeing a lot of news about them actually making indictments against Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. So if they start burning down cities over that, I won't be surprised. Or I should have pulled up this article, but I saw something out of, it's talking about in Ireland, it's like extend, like almost like how the royals in the UK will do like knighthood. But like they'll extend something to people or individuals, which allows them to come be like shepherds in Ireland or something like that. They got offered, the Obamas got offered that. I saw that and I thought, is that they're out to be out of the country, go take refuge? Anyways, point being is, man, this Russiagate stuff's heating up. And so as the latest breaks with that, I'll be reporting that. But Operation Mockingbird. CIA-controlled journalists for propaganda. Denied by agency, proven by 1975 church committee. Apparently still ongoing, says Tulsi Gabbard. Prohibition poisoning. U.S. government tainted alcohol, killing 10,000 plus. Denied initially, proven by 1920s records. Okay, I guess during Prohibition, I didn't even know that thing existed, but here I am. I didn't even know that thing existed. But the government tainted alcohol and killed over 10,000 folks. Can you even? Most people be like, well, how could they do that? Imagine what else they've done we just don't know about. Business plot. 1933 coup attempt against FDR by tycoons. Denied as fantasy, proven by congressional testimony. Again, had no idea that existed, but how many things in the past have happened that I don't know about that are crazy? CIA heart attack gun. See, that's one that people, like Fee would say, no, that's crazy. Fee would say, no, that doesn't exist. Insane. Device to induce undetectable heart attacks. Denied. Proven by 1975 Senate hearings. So it seems like, Senate hearings are, I'm pretty certain, public record. So you could go back and find probably these records, these testimonies, for yourself. Project Sunshine. U.S. stole body parts for radiation tests. Denied. Proven by 1995 declassifications. So the U.S. is apparently stealing body parts. Not surprised there. Operation Sea Spray. Navy sprayed bacteria on San Francisco. Denied. Proven by 1977 hearings. I don't even know what that means, but they sprayed bacteria on San Francisco. And look what's going on in San Francisco right now. Maybe that bacteria had something going on with that. I don't know, but I don't want to catch that bacteria. No, sir. And the last one, Lavon affair. Israel bombed targets in Egypt to blame Arabs. Denied. Proven by 2005 Israeli honors to agents. Okay, so I didn't even realize that last one existed, but are we surprised there? So the Israel government bombed Egypt to blame the Arabs to cause chaos and confusion and war in the Middle East. Whoa, that's not a pattern we've seen reflected throughout history and current events. USS Liberty, they bombed an American vessel and trying to blame it on someone else so that we would go to war with them. You still have people who lived through that today who are very angry and upset about that we did nothing about it. They are under attack for, I don't know, over an hour, several hours. Look into it, USS Liberty. So that's an interesting one. And makes you wonder what other catastrophic events have happened in America or around the world that have led to the bloodshed of millions of people through wars, all through manipulation and acts like that. So that's very interesting to think about. And so that was just a quick example of like how you can get information, compile information fast using AI. Again, you don't want to let AI think for you. So these are all things you can go check and verify yourself. But you want to let AI aid in your thinking, or make it quicker or easier, like in the sense of you get all the information you want at the click of a button instead of having to pilfer through all the bullcrap. So let's see if there's anything else I was thinking about talking about. I wish my friends would hurry up and get to the Pats. I don't know why it's always empty at noon. It's just always empty. I hope you guys at least dig the jukebox. You can't beat a few jukebox tunes. I'll say that. And personally, when it comes to music, I like some modern music. And here I am going off a soapbox about music. Like some modern music, I like a lot of modern, like Americana, folk. I like a little red dirt, I like a little country, right? But not a hip hoppy country or pop country. I like old music, I like 60s, 70s, 80s. 85 is my cutoff. Probably, okay, 87, maybe 88. Okay, I don't know. But I like older music, but the more I listen to music, the older I like it. I grew up listening to 60s and 70s classic rock, 60s, 70s, 80s. CCR, all-time favorite. Creedence Clearwater Revival, John Fogerty, greatest singer of all time, greatest guitar player of all time. Eagles up there, Don Henley, beautiful voice. Glenn Frey, rest in peace, love him. But lately, in the last 5 or 6 years, I was working a night shift and just listening to a little relaxing, like 40s, big band jazz music, the slow stuff, the fast stuff. The Frank Sinatra, the jazz, the Glenn Miller. I just love the, and this is just a little bit of that kind of music inspired. And so you're going to hear a lot of that music when I'm talking, when I'm on the air. And that's just because it puts me, I can't even hear it right now because I don't have a little earpiece. But it just puts me in a good headspace. Gets me in a good mood to relax and talk. And even I know a lot of people when they go working out or lifting weights or runs, they want to listen to uplifting, heavy music to get them in the mood and pump them. But this is what I'd be listening to if I was going on a 5-mile jog. If I was lifting weights, this is the mood I want in my head. But enough about that. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the next thing I wanted to talk about. Let me see if I got it right here. No, that's video on my technical video stuff. Of course, Twitter wants to restart every time you open the app. Just part and parcel of modern life. Okay, yes, it's. I saw a tweet and I should have had it pulled up, but again, I was trying to get this website straightened out, and I'm not gonna update. I'm not gonna publish it till I have it mostly ready. So if you hear me talking about it and keep going to check the website and it looks exactly the same, don't fret. I'm working on it. Anyways, this was a tweet I saw, and this gets into what me and Fee talk about, or I talk about a lot, about hardening your hearts and how the world is turning against Israel, and it's a pipeline of anti-Semitic hate that you start to awaken and notice things that are true, criticisms about current governments that you question their relation to ancient nations, okay? But then it starts to lead you to hate the culture, to hate the people, to hate the roots in which Christianity stemmed from. And I've told people often that noticing these things is one thing, but where it leads you can be a scary place. And I've told people often, it leads people into essentially claiming that, number one, Jesus wasn't a Jew, that Jesus was not a Jew, even though he clearly was, a practicing Jew at that. And number two, that Yahweh, the God of Israel, is a demon. Now, that's not to say that I think modern religious Jews worship Yahweh, because Jesus said something to the effect of, you don't know me, you don't know the Father, or you can't, if you can't get to the Father, not through Christ, or only through Christ. I'm all mushmouth over here today. But the point is, yeah, they worship an idea of the God of Israel, but the God of Israel is Jesus. I'm just saying that flat out. And so in rejection of Jesus is rejection of the God of Israel. So, that aside, though, to claim that the God of Israel in the Old Testament, in the God of Israel, who was born as Jesus and lived and died and was resurrected and is in heaven now, probably planning to come back pretty soon, I guess. I don't know. That's the way things are looking, unless they're deceiving us. But these ideologies and these hate, as true as some of these things might be, leads you to a bad place that is directly against the commandments of Christ. So you can't be having that. You can't be hardening your hearts, because we see scriptures say that the love of many will wax cold. They're going to harden their hearts. And this is just an example of a tweet I saw. Yahweh is an evil creature, not God. Hebrews worship this false God, and that is why they murdered the Christ of God, because his goal and morals were opposite to those of Yahweh. That brought many misfortunes to the Hebrew people. Okay, it's one thing now to argue that, in a sense, some Jews worship in the synagogue of Satan, or even then, that back then, those Pharisees were worshiping, and calling themselves Jews, but worshiping in the synagogue of Satan, because it was about money and status, right? But to claim that the Jews of that day and Jesus had a different God in mind, and to say that Yahweh is a demon and we just don't know the name of Jesus as God, I don't know, that's just a stretch. That's too far. You're not gonna be hearing me call Yahweh a demon. But the point I'm making is that this pipeline of hate not only hardens your heart to other people, your neighbors, therefore violating the commandments of Christ, which I do every day, but it leads to a outright rejection of the God of Israel. And me and Fee will sit around and talk and often wonder, well, how is it that so many people are going to turn against God in the end times? Well, this is how. This ideology. People view the God of Israel as a foreign deity. They're starting to view him as a foreign deity, in the sense of, well, we don't want to worship the Jews' God. We want our own gods, the Aryan gods, or the gods of the Hindus, or the gods of the whatever. That's what they're starting to flock to. And it's very interesting in the sense, if you think about it, that I can hear Fee walking by with my podcast playing, and it's real loud and throw me off. So he's going to turn it down directly, of course, as soon as he hears that, and be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." So much love to you, Fee Smee. But the point being is, people will flock to these old gods that have been locked away, lost in time, their power stripped, because no one was thinking about them and giving them their power or energy. And I know it sounds kind of crazy, but now with the advent of like the internet, instant knowledge, these old gods, old unseen forces are gaining footholds in the minds of men. And I think that's manifested in statements like this: Yahweh is an evil creature. That's crazy. I mean, it's one thing to say that the Jews don't worship God because they don't worship Jesus, but it's another thing to say that the God we read about in the Old Testament was a demon, that Moses on Mount Sinai received the commandments from a demon. That's, it gives me the spooks to even think about that. And you know, I get blamed all the time as being an anti-Semitic guy, but it's like, whoa, but that's where this pipeline of hate leads. You can't harden your heart against anyone, for that matter. I mean, we all fall into that, but I think this is different in that it's part of prophecy of the end times, in that the whole world's going to rally around this, and rally around this hate of Israel and awaken to their crimes against humanity. And so that's just something to think about. Ooh, and I'm going to go ahead and read I read him on, I can't remember which podcast, but I read him sometimes, and I bring him up often. His name is Donnie Discerned, but his handle on X is @DonnieDarkened. And again, this guy, he hits the nail on the head a lot, and he's pretty long-winded, so I'll read fast, but it's good to put into context what's happening with the broader society. And those listening, since we're in our little echo chamber, you might not have come across people in your real day-to-day life that think this way or are on this pipeline, but I've seen it online, people who just start to question these things. Next thing you know, they're outright denying the God of Israel, and then it twists their view on Jesus, like in the resurrection and the Bible and the Old Testament, right? So and I've even met someone in real life who we got to talking about noticing these things, and then they literally said they worship a demon. Well, they might worship a demon now because they're not worshiping the true God, Jesus, but that essentially they were saying the God of the Old Testament was a demon. And I'm like, whoa, that was the first time in real life I've ever encountered that, but it's out there. Anyways, this guy says, Donnie Discerned, Donnie Darkened, @DonnieDarkened, if you've been paying attention, you'll know this kind of talk is becoming more prevalent. It's textbook Gnosticism, which we'll get into Gnosticism a whole lot at one point. We'll do a whole episode dedicated. If you don't know anything about it, we'll get into it. Maybe I'll try to pull up the definition. Well, I'll look into it. I'll just see if I can look up right now, just for y'all's sake. Okay, Gnosticism, a prominent heretical movement of the 2nd century Christian church, partly of pre-Christian origin. See, these ideas predate even Christianity. Not that it's like, I'll just keep reading. Partly of pre-Christian origin. Gnostic doctrine taught that the world was created and ruled by a lesser divinity and demiurge, if that's how you pronounce that, and that Christ was an emissary of the remote, supreme divine being, esoteric knowledge, gnosis, or however you say that, of whom enabled the redemption of the human spirit. Okay, in essence, they're claiming that Yahweh is this lesser divinity. That's who Yahweh is, this demon. The material realm was created by that, but Christ is an emissary, was sent by the true, remote God, in that Christ was a man sent, but he possessed the Christ consciousness, a consciousness that we all can possess. And that's enough of that. I'll get into this guy's post just to give you a little context on Gnosticism. But it's a big heresy you see popping up a whole lot more on the internet. It's textbook Gnosticism. And Gnosticism was the original anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. Ooh. It taught that God, the God of Israel, Yahweh, is an evil, false God who created the world as a prison. It claimed that the Jews are his chosen agents in that system, and it reframes Jesus as a spiritual rebel who came to expose Yahweh and free humanity from his control, which is interesting because isn't that the whole idea of Lucifer, that Lucifer was the spiritual rebellion who came to expose Yahweh of his pride or whatever. I don't know what Lucifer's deal was. Just wanting a voice, I guess. I don't know. And free humanity from his control. So, Lucifer is often hailed as he freed humanity from Yahweh's control. But it's interesting that this doctrine reframes Jesus as the one, God as the demon, and Jesus is the one, the spiritual rebel who came to expose Yahweh and free humanity from his control. That's very interesting. That's where this idea comes from, that Jesus came to destroy the Old Testament God. That awakening means rejecting Yahweh and the people he chose. Now that same worldview is quietly rising in the red pill movement. Okay, red pill equals fruit of the tree of knowledge. The red pill, like, ooh, I'm onto the knowledge, I'm awakened. People think they're awakening to the truth, but the deeper they go, the more they turn against the God of the Bible, through words and or actions. Many of them start saying things like Yahweh is a demon, or Jesus came to destroy Judaism and the Jews. But they're following a false Christ. That's the point, a false idea of Christ. Their version of Jesus isn't the Jewish Messiah. It's a Gentile crusader. Very important distinction, because these Gentile crusaders are most likely going to side with the beast kingdom, the Antichrist. Maybe. That's just what I'm kind of thinking. Their version of Jesus isn't the Jewish Messiah. It's a Gentile crusader, a revolutionary figure who came to overthrow the Jews, not fulfill the law and the prophets. That's why these people deny his Jewishness. That's why many of them even say he was white. That's why they frame him as a model of Gentile rage against Jews. They use his name, but it's not him. And Revelation says where that ends. The nations gather to make war against the Lamb. Revelations 19:19. They won't think they're fighting Christ. They'll think they're fighting the Antichrist. They will follow a false Messiah to Jerusalem, thinking they're destroying the satanic New World Order headquarters, only to find themselves face to face with the real king. The Antichrist won't look like a tyrant to them. He'll look like a liberator to the deceived, a Gentile conqueror who desecrates the temple, just like Antiochus in the book of Daniel. And Jesus, the real Messiah, will be seen as the final boss of the world system they think they're overthrowing when he returns to save the remnant of Israel, who repents and destroys the kingdoms of earth. This is where the deception leads. The strong delusion is already here. Dum dum dum. And when he gets into the details about, like, okay, are these people who are going to trample or go to holy war against Israel, is it specifically because, are they going to the holy war against Israel because of they think they're bringing judgment to Israel for their past crimes, right, down that pipeline of anti-Semitic hate? Or are they specifically trying to stamp out the remnant of those who turn to Christ? Or are those, the remnant, the only ones left in Israel? I'm not sure. I'll have to talk to Fee about that. He'll think that's interesting. And so I thought that all that was interesting. And me, I like talking about stuff, and I really like reading about this, reading this Donnie Discerned, again, at Donnie Darkened, has a good perspective on a lot of things, and that doesn't necessarily mean you have to agree with everything he says, but the point he was making about Gnosticism is what's true, and the point he's making about the deception and the strong delusion, that's the point. But I think, personally, that a strong delusion, wide is the gate, narrow the path, exists on both ends of the spectrum. And so just something for you guys to think about. I just love to think, and I just want my viewers to think. So if anyone's out there listening, Jerry, you're listening, Colin out there somewhere, Fee, if you're out there listening, or Jessica, just think about these things. And the last thing I really wanted to get into today, completely off topic, but I just saw this map, and I think it gets into something very interesting, so I'll show you this map. Suspected, like I said, very off topic, suspected alpha-gal syndrome cases per million people, 2017 to 2022. So you can see that the alpha-gal syndrome cases are very heavily concentrated in what you'd call, I guess, the South, Midwest, the South, Midwest, places like this. Alpha-gal being the sickness that just randomly makes you allergic to meat, red meat specifically. Very interesting. I'm going to have another episode about that, because I want to get into that, because you see all this propaganda about climate change, all this propaganda about our diets and how they want us Americans to stop eating red meat. It's bad for the environment. Raising cattle, the cow farts, bad for the environment. So I find it interesting that in the regions where you find probably the most amount of farming, cattle, red meat consumption, and you could maybe argue that just a lot of rural places there, a lot of forests and stuff. But it's interesting that you find in places where very normal to consume lots and lots of red meat, that you have this sickness popping up all over the place. All of a sudden, 20, 30 years ago, was this even heard of? Now I know one guy goes to my church, one guy's my cousin, one girl's married to a guy I worked with, who all have alpha-gal. That's very interesting. I'm a very avid outdoors guy, and the thought of that scares me because they claim there's no cure. But if you look into it, anyone out there suffering, again, this is not medical advice, but I have seen correlations between a form of acupuncture, and alpha-gal. So if you just simply typed in alpha-gal acupuncture, you will find clinics. I saw one in Missouri or Mississippi, I couldn't remember. But they have them where they claim to have success with a form of acupuncture and alpha-gal. So again, not medical advice, but just something to look into. And I'll do a whole episode about that because, again, I just find it too convenient that the talking heads come on TV and say, we're eating too much meat. And now all of a sudden there's just a disease running rampant in the South where people have to stop eating red meat. Makes them sick to the point of as mild as just, stomach grumbles, all the way to needing an EpiPen. I don't know. That's very interesting. And guys, I'm going to go ahead and just close it up today because, like I said, I've got so much work to do today for this Feast Me Network. I've got so much work to do for you guys for Feed. And so I'm going to get right on that. But I'm glad I at least kept it long enough to hopefully keep it interesting. I like it when I get into topics I didn't think I'd get into. And so, guys, thank you again for tuning into Midday Madness with Manly Mark. Tune in again tomorrow at noon. I'm here Monday through Friday. And if you want to catch me again, the soonest you'll see me is tomorrow at 9 on the Feast Me Show with Manly Mark. We have a good time. We banter. We hit current events, current news. We always have a good time. But don't forget to tune in to 9 at 9 to 9 at 9 with Fee. He's getting into some more questions from our viewers. And so anyone out there listening, feast me at feastme.com. Email us your questions, your comments. We want your comments. We love hate mail. Give us your love mail, hate mail. Just tell us what you think. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time. God bless.